Okay, so this is going to be a lesson on some basic graphing. I'm going to start by, I've got two sets of data here. One is some data that I made up for pre and post pennies, mass and volume, and the other is for a graph of temperature versus reaction time for two different metals reacting with hydrochloric acid. So I'm going to start with them first, and I'm going to show you some things, and then we'll end with the pennies, and hopefully you'll be able to pick up a few things. One thing that we want to remember is that when we graph in science, most of the time we are going to be creating a scatter graph. So I'm going to go Insert. I'm going to come over here, and these are all my different types of graphs. And the one that's got the dots is the one that I want, which is the scatter. And we're going to pick the one without the lines. I know I talked about one with lines in class, but we'll add trend lines, which will give us. So I'm going to move this out of the way. All I did was click and slide to get it to move to the right. So now this is my working graph area. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click anywhere in the graph, right click, and I'm going to do select data. And that brings up the data source box. I want to do add data. And then you can see it gives me a series name and X and Y. So we're going to do the temperature and time data. So for my series name, this is a reaction between Mg, which is magnesium, and hydrochloric acid, HCl. So that's my series name. For my X values, my X data, I'm going to click select range, and I'm going to highlight the temperature values, and then just hit the X box. Then I'm going to do the same thing for the Y. I'm going to click, I'm going to highlight and drag, get my Y data. I'm going to hit OK. But now I want to add another set of data, so I'm going to slide this over. I'm going to do add again. And this time I'm going to add the aluminum and HCl, hydrochloric acid data. I did this because this might be useful later on in the year. Now I need to select my X data range, which is my temperatures again, and then my Y data. And then hit OK. And hit OK again. So now you can see that I've got these two sets of data here. So let's add a trend line first. So I'm going to right click and do add trend line. Now I have all these different choices. More than likely we're going to be using linear. I don't think you're going to use exponential or logarithmic in this class. And if I wanted to change the color, I could change that up here. So maybe I want to have a black line. There we go. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the other data. Click anywhere on that data. I'm going to do add trend line. And let's change the color on that. Maybe we want to make this one, I don't know, red. Okay. Now, you probably could just make it the same color as whatever the dots are, which is what I probably would do, and I'll do that in the next graph, but I just wanted to show you that you could change the color. So if we go over to this plus sign and we left click on that, we can see that we can add axes. We want to add axes titles. We want to add a chart title, and we want to add a legend. And you can choose to have or not have the lines. You can see what it looks like. It's up to you. It's a personal choice. So if I wanted to put a title, I could just do I'm typing up at the top, the effect of temperature on the rate of reaction for two metals. And then axis title over here with time in seconds. Okay. And then down here, axis title, this would be temperature. And this would be in degrees Celsius. And hit enter. So there. Voila. Now, I probably would get rid of some of this over here in my legend, because I really only need to be able, so I'm just going to left click on that, and then I'm going to right click delete. And then I'm going to left click on that till I get those blue dots, and then delete. There we go. And now I have a nice graph. I can take and drag this at the corner and make it bigger. And then if I just right click anywhere in the right area, I can then copy, and then I can paste this to a Word document. So that's it for that graph. So let's try the other set of data that I have here. Again, we're going to start by inserting a scatter graph. Slide this over, get it out of the way. And I'm going to right click, select data, add data, series name. So this is going to be the pre-1982 pennies. And I'm going to select my X data, which is my volume. And then just click the X. Then my Y data, my mass. Click the X, hit OK. Add my second set of data. This is going to be my post 1982 pennies. I'm going to select my X data and then my Y data. Hit OK and then OK again. And now you can see in this graph my data is not quite as nice as it was in the last. I'm going to click, right click, add trend line. I'm going to leave it the same color. And then I'm going to go back and add another trend line for the blue data. Add trend line. It's blue. Okay. Now we're going to also add axes titles, chart title, and a legend. I'm going to clean this up right away and get rid of this. Whoops. Did it too many times. Here we go. And chart title. Mass versus volume, maybe for pre and post 1982 pennies. Hit enter. My axis title on the Y. This was my mass in grams. And on my X, this is my volume in milliliters. Let's make it a little bit bigger and see if I can clean it up any. Maybe I don't need my graph to start at 0, so I want to change the horizontal axis. So format axis, and maybe I can start this at 1.5. And maybe I want to add some tick marks, minor ones. So minor means in between the numbers here on the axis. I like them outside. Here we go. Maybe I even want to spread this data out more. Can play around with it. Maybe we want to make this 0.1. And that spread it out a little further. So you can play with that, and you can change your axes simply by right-clicking on them and selecting what you want to do. And that's just some basic graphing, but what we can see here is definitely that our pre-1982 pennies have a greater mass and volume as compared to the post-1982 pennies. All right, hopefully that was helpful, and I will see you in class.